Greetings and welcome, everyone. I am Kristian Salinas, the Artistic and Executive Director of QFest, the Houston International LGBTQ Film Festival. 2021 marks our 25th anniversary, and I am so delighted and thrilled to welcome the writer-director Todd Stevens, who will be closing this year's festival with his wonderful new film, Swan Song.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you. I want to first thank our sponsors for allowing this opportunity, our presenting sponsor, the John Stephen Kellett Foundation, and our program sponsors, the Hollyfield Foundation and the City of Houston through the Houston Arts Alliance. I'd also like to thank our project sponsor, the Aurora Picture Show, as well as our online sponsor, Sinenso, and our media sponsor, Houston Media Source and Spectrum South. So Todd, let's open the discussion, certainly starting with the inspiration for your film. As I've read, you were inspired by a very special individual in the small town that you grew up in. As a very young gay man coming to terms with your own sexuality, you found someone that you could relate to and that inspired you to I guess, feel comfortable in your own skin. Tell us a bit about that. Tell us a bit about this person.
Yeah, when I was a little sort of budding queer boy, pre-queer, is that a word? When I was a kid, pretty young, I would ride my bike downtown. I lived not far from where the whole film was shot in downtown Sandusky. And so every once in a while, I would see this very fabulous man, walking around downtown and who looked completely different than anybody. Because it was a pretty conservative area at the time. It's changed a bit over the years, thankfully. But back then it was pretty conservative. And, this person who I later found out, his name was Mr. Pat. I didn't learn that until many years later, but he was like a rock star, in a way, he looked completely different than anybody. And he had the pantsuit and the hat, fedora, and the more cigarette. And I just really, something about him really, I really related to, even, I didn't know what it was. I like to kind of say that it was my first true, exposure to true glamour, in the world. And so anyway, years later, when I went to go to our queer bar, which was called the Universal Fruit and Nut Company, which it is in the film and also in my first film, Edge of 17. The first time I went in there, I was this trembling 17-year-old and opened the door and, by myself. And I looked and saw something sparkling and glittering on the dance floor. And I turned and there was Pat, this man that I had seen for many years growing up. And it all kind of connected. And I'm like, oh, that's what I am. That's what, you know what I mean? I felt like I was home, So I really feel like I made the film as a tribute to all the Mr. Pats of the world that helped build the queer community, and also as sort of a love letter to small town queer bars that, in my case, it was a safe space that really saved my life,
Gorgeous skin. Where you from?
Hancock Street.
Nice.
You been there lately?
Been performing long?
2 years. Finally start to get good and they close the damn bar.
What's your act?
Batten down the hatches, boys. Man your harpoons and make way for Miss Velma Humpback.
There she blows.
Oh, yes, queen.
Forget this little town, Miss Wilma. You be big in Cleveland.
Well, ain't you just the sweetest thing? Oh, hell no.
Sit down. Close your eyes. I'm a professional. No peeking.
In a city like Houston, which is fourth largest city, it is a small town. And I too remember being that trembling young person attempting to walk into a bar, but even before then, like driving by them, slowing down, and then speeding off.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, I did that too.
And it's just remarkable that, we don't really have that sense of community so much anymore, with the transition to everything being through social media, it seems. But the value of coming out in a gay bar, like when you first walk through that door, you're terrified, but it doesn't take very long to, as you said, realize you're home, and to suddenly know that you're amongst people who truly understand you. And I can remember that first time as like this profound weight walking in, just suddenly disappearing, and then you don't remember anything that happened before you walked in that door.
Right. Yeah. I mean, sadly, a lot of these places are disappearing, and I teach young kids because I'm a college teacher. So interestingly enough, like a lot of the young queer kids from generation Gen Z that I teach, like kind of have expressed like a desire to have places like that kind of come back, and it's almost similar to, they also love like vinyl records, and they love to shoot on actual film, and a queer, it's things you can touch, and
Right.
and I think that there's a longing for that. So maybe there's some hope that there could be a bit of a renaissance. We'll see. That's up to them. It's up to their generation.
Well, I certainly want to talk about Udo Kier's performance, which it's not hyperbole to say that is an Oscar-worthy performance. And the one thing I love and adore about Udo is that it doesn't matter what movie he's in. And, I certainly am a big fan of his work from the 70s. Like, he just embodies whoever he's playing. And certainly does that in this film, but in such a powerful, provocative, and meaningful way. Like, that character may be based on someone, but it's entirely his character.
Yeah.
It's Udo, but you also don't see Udo. That's
Mhm.
such a remarkable performance. And just, I guess, share with us how it was to work with him, to collaborate with him, and how it felt to direct him.
Well, it was very important for me to cast a queer actor in that part, and I don't believe that I don't believe in rules, but for this particular film, I felt it was important, not just for Mr. Pat's part, but for all the queer parts. And I wanted somebody who had lived through AIDS and had, lived through the nightclub scene, and knew, and, had his own fruit and nut, and, many years ago. And so that just got it, and, but also, yeah, knew what it was like to be the hot ticket. And, Udo, he's still beautiful, but my God, when he was young, it's like, oh Lord, so, he described, going into bars now sometimes, and like, if people don't recognize him for being famous, that you're just more like invisible, as you get older. And that's something that, whether you're queer or not, we can all relate to. It's just, we live in a youth obsessed world, but it was amazing collaborating with him. He helped me do a Kickstarter campaign, like about a year before we actually shot. So by the time we shot the film, we were friends, and that, I think that kind of trust and friendship that we had just allowed us to go even deeper. And, I mean, we had like a year-long conversation about the character in the film. So by the time we shot, we were really ready, and every day I watched him I felt like I was watching a master class, you know? I mean, it's like one of those things. It's not like, here's a part of a take for this moment, and then, you know, let me glue together this other moment from another take. It's like everything he gave was great. And so it was like hard to choose, you know, like, but he was so wonderful. He wanted to shoot the film in sequence, which was really interesting. Usually you can't do that, but we were able to in this. Like, he really wanted to start off in the nursing home, you know, and kind of come back to life from there. And I think that really helped us both.
Mr. Shanrock here to see you, says he's an attorney. Should I tell him you did?
Patrick Pitzenbarger. It's been years. Have you seen the register today? I'm sorry to let you know that a former client has passed away. We've lost Rita Parker Sloan. Rita specified in her will that you were to do her hair and makeup for the funeral. First showing is day after tomorrow at 11 a.m. Ransom Funeral Home will require your services tomorrow night. That photo is from a year ago. Perhaps you could recreate the same hairstyle?
Split ends and all.
My colleague and I, Stephanie St. Sanchez, watched the film together because we're both Udo fans, and just seeing the profound dignity in that performance, and the humor, and the sense that he doesn't take himself seriously as a performer, but what he gives just has such a profound emotional impact. We were weeping at times and laughing hysterically at other moments. He's just such a powerful performer, and he has those incredible kryptonite eyes, as I like to call them. I mean, he's just amazing. So I thank you so much for bringing him back to the collective consciousness of so many queer people. Like, they need to remember this man. He's remarkable. And I felt the same way with, certainly in seeing Linda Evans in her role. Wow. I mean, that performance, albeit brief, was so incredible as well. And she has the perfect character name. I can think of so many Sloans in my world that could fit just perfectly in that character.
Rita Parker Sloan. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a very gutsy, I don't want to give it too much away, but yeah, you're right. It's a small role, but a pivotal role. And she was very gutsy. There was no vanity. She just did whatever the story required, and just the sweetest woman, like kindest, sweetest, like most encouraging person. And she and Udo got really close. Like they really connected, so that was really cool.
I also think that seeing Jennifer Coolidge is always wonderful, whatever movie she's in. So Thank you for casting her. We love her. Michael Urie certainly felt like the embodiment of all of us at some point in our life, certainly at a much younger age, and just experiencing these dynamics in the characters, like embodying your queerness with pride and reflecting upon those who came before us, and realizing like we owe them such a profound debt of gratitude.
Right.
I also love seeing Jonah Blackman. I don't see enough of Jonah.
Jonah. Yeah, I mean, he's like my brother. I mean, because, we made those crazy gay movies together, and he's done so many other things. He's incredible. Yeah, I love him.
Oh my God. Pat? Is it you?
No.
Yeah, look so athletic. Wow. Come on in. Now, Tristan, check this out. This man gave me my first job in the business.
And now he is mopping your vivante.
Yeah. Shouldn't have done that, but after all, you gotta catch this guy a break, because he really is a legend. This is Patrick Pitzenbarger. Did all the socialites of Sandusky back in the day. That's right. Once upon a time.
I want to talk to you about just about your career as a filmmaker. You certainly I think everything you've directed, you've also written, but you've also written work that others have directed. And, you know, maybe aside from Another Gay Movie and its sequel, these are all, pardon me, autobiographical to a large degree. Or certainly have elements of your own life in them. And certainly in Swan Song, I feel like you have this this remarkable gift for relating your personal stories in a way that all of us can relate to. There's something that connects us to your stories. I don't know if that's so much of a question or leading into a question as much as an observation, but perhaps maybe just talking about your own process in developing an idea that you turn into a script.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, I always tried to put myself into pieces of myself into all my characters, you know. But with Swan Song, even though the lead character is a 75-year-old senior citizen, which for some reason on Wikipedia it says I'm 71, but I'm not. But I don't know how to change it. But I'm not quite. You know, I'm like the next, you know, generation X. You know, before that generation. But I hadn't made a movie in like 12 years before this, and so I really almost like was wondering if I could still do it. You know, if I could. I had this thing that I loved doing all my life, but I, you know, just I just kind of lost it. You know, lost. I got off the track or whatever, and you know, life gets in the way, kind of thing, to some extent. And so in a lot of ways, I wrote the character of Mr. Pat, somebody who had this thing that he loved, which was creating, you know, visions with hair, and who had also lost his connection to what he loved, you know, and what sort of defined him. And so in a lot of ways, I wrote Swan Song as a way of telling myself that I could still do what I loved, you know. So a lot of times, you know, films are like therapy. You know, you're like working your issues out. At least that's how I treat it. And I always tell my students, like, write what you know, and you know, Carrie Fisher once said, like, take your broken heart and turn it into art, which I always love. But yeah, I mean, that's truth, you know, like if you dig into that truth of who you are and have the courage to put it out there, because it's vulnerable, you know. So it takes a bit of courage, but I just try to be honest and put myself out there. And yeah, I mean, I remember when Edge of 17 came out, you know, it's like people came up to me and said, how did you know my life? You know, there's no greater compliment than have your story resonate, you know, with other people. I mean, that's amazing. You know, when I hear things like that. And now even with Swan Song, it's like people relate to it in a different way, you know, and so that just, it's very gratifying, certainly.
You know, Todd, I appreciate you for being so candid in that response, because, you know, the fact that it has been 12 years since your last film, and that that just seems criminal to me. And I think, you know, speaking on behalf of not only you, but so many others, you know, I came of age as a festival programmer when you were starting out. And I feel like there's just this generation of filmmakers who had so many challenges. First of all, for being openly gay with the very first film that they created, that that you and others who made that choice did not have the luxury of just getting offered other projects because, oh, well, they're not gay, and et cetera,
Right.
et cetera. And so, your generation of filmmakers, in some ways, at least from my perspective, having done this for so long, we're getting lumped into a category, well, they can only direct queer things. We're not seeing that so much now with younger filmmakers because attitudes have changed. But again, I also feel that this is a problem of just not having the kind of financial support that artists, primarily in Europe, have to develop and keep developing and to keep working and to find a way to establish themselves, not as just as artists, but as professionals, to actually have a way to earn a living.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I tried to get, big Hollywood money to make Swan Song, or not even, or just even, more of a real budget, and I just couldn't find the money. I mean, I spent years trying to get the money for it, and finally, it was either I was going to give up or I was going to like do a Kickstarter campaign and beg my friends and family for money, and that's how it got started. And so we wound up making it on a very low budget, and with the kindness of my hometown that really pitched in, and contributed in so many ways. Yeah, I mean, I would have. It'd be nice to earn a nice living making, films like that. But and there are, luckily though, there are more avenues now for queer content, and back in the day that you're talking about, it's like, there was hardly any TV series and stuff that had like openly queer characters or dealt with like queer sex and stuff, and that's definitely changed a lot. So there are more avenues, but it's still, I can tell you in this case, making a movie about a gay senior citizen, at least, was a challenge, but that's almost, but we need those kind of stories of people that are underrepresented, so I think if you're making a queer story that's got hot, young folks in it, it's easier. Although that was the case then too. I mean, it's like, you know what I mean? It was like, but yeah, I mean, it's I feel like no matter what level you get, it's always a challenge to, I don't know.
Can I help you find something?
How about everything?
Ooh, give me 1 second. Ta-da! I've been saving it for the right customer. Try it on.
Well, Todd, I have really enjoyed this. We have enjoyed this. I am so sad that we can't bring you to Houston. Thank you so much, COVID, for that contribution. But having this opportunity to talk with you like this and to share this with people who may not be able to attend the screening, all the same, I hope this will encourage them to seek out your film, to watch it. Swan Song is remarkable. And I just really thank you for sharing your time with us, and also for Swan Song being the last film of our festival. For that's it. This is the end of our 25-year run.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so honored with that. That's amazing. I mean, Swan Song is about a one-man swan song, but in a way it was about the swan song of a certain gay lifestyle, like world. Of a certain queer world that really is disappearing, and yeah, I mean, so I was trying to kind of provoke, you know, like our small town gay bar still needed, our gay film festival still needed, you know, I believe they are. And if we let all that stuff slip away, you know, that could be dangerous, you know, ultimately. So, but I'm very honored, super honored to have Swan Song be the swan song of QFest.
Well, thank you again,
Yeah.
Todd. For people who are watching this before Sunday, September 26th, you will have the opportunity to catch the film at our last in-person screening at the Museum of Fine Arts. Swan Song will close out QFest 2021, and we will be presenting the film on Sunday, September 26th at 5 p.m. at the Museum of Fine Arts, Houston, at 1001 Bissonnette Street. There will be a limited number of tickets available as we are observing COVID restrictions and we are requiring masks be worn during the screening. Tickets may be purchased on the museum's website at mfah.org, and we will have a link up on our website as well that will direct you to the museum. Our website is Q-Fest. And I'd like to once again thank Todd and our friends at Magnolia for making this possible, as well as our sponsors of QFest 2021, our presenting sponsor, the John Stephen Kellett Foundation, our program sponsors, the Hollyfield Foundation, and of course, the City of Houston through the Houston Arts Alliance, our fiscal sponsor, the Aurora Picture Show, our online sponsor, Sinensa, who will be hosting our virtual film festival. And finally, our media sponsors, Houston Media Source, who is working with us to put together these interviews. And finally, our friends at Spectrum South. Thank you again for watching. I'm Kristian Salinas with QFest.